That countdown. Now it's going.
Today's broadcast brought to you by
Podcasting live from across the United States. This is the Multitapped podcast.
I love how we just ruined the intro for that. Thank you, though, Lucius.
Wait, was that actually it?
That was it, yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get started. We'll take 1 second of silence for editing purposes, but everyone who's doing it live, there you go. There's your little treat. So look behind the curtains. Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the 4th episode of the Multitapped podcast. Tonight we are going to be discussing the broad topic that is RPGs. Joining us tonight, we have Mr. Derek from Super Derek. We have Daria from Daria Plays.
Hello.
We have Luke from Lucius Showcase. We have Jason from Arthur X Jason. And then also not Rewind Mike, if you want to touch that one, Jason.
Yes, Mr. Rewind Mike, part of our alumni group here, is not with us today because he chose to be a little dick and go over there on the Retroholics podcast, which I was part of very shortly. And I just want to say to the Retro guys, because I know they got their own shirts and they finger pop each other assholes over there. It's not polite to not ask if you can poach some of our people first off, so he can join you guys as Morlock-looking motherfuckers on that podcast. But I will say you guys did have some pretty good opinions on a geeky topic, which was Zelda, so I will give you a little props on that. But, just saying it and all. I do love Gaming Rebellion, too, you know what I mean? They're my favorite little fuck group around the internet, too. So, but that's it. That's all I was going to say. So, hi Rewind Mike. He's probably still live on right now.
Classic Jason Lewis Salt to start the episode off. So where I wanted to start with this one is because RPGs is just such a huge topic, and I know that we, dug into it a little bit when we first discussed it this week. But I wanted to open with the most loaded question, and Derek, I know that it makes you livid, but I want to know what everyone's favorite RPG is, and we'll go ahead and wing it from there. We can start with Daria, because I know she said she actually had a definitive answer, unlike Derek, who's going to spit fire.
Oh, my answer is very easy. I am quite loyal to Shining Force, the original for Genesis, for no other reason than I grew up with it. It's a shit ton of fun, and it doesn't mess around with any bullshit. It's just a fun strategy RPG that I can play from any point in the game and just keep going with it. So, that is my choice.
I feel really bad because that's actually on my backlog of RPGs. Like, ever since I did a bunch of collecting last year, I have a bunch that I need to sit down and play through. And, like, Lufia's on there, and, like, Final Fantasy 3, just a ton of shit I need to actually do. So.
No, fuck those other ones. Just play Shining Force.
Just play Shining Force? Just go straight into it?
Just go straight for that one. You don't need this other one.
Fuck those other ones. Just play this.
It's the best one.
What's in the cup? Luke, wait. What's in the cup? What's in the cup? I gotta know first. What's in the cup?
The cup is mocha coffee and some espresso vodka.
Okay, can you do something for the viewers? Can you just hold that fucking cup up so I can see how big it is?
Oh, it is quite a
look at that
Wait,
fucking cup. Jesus Christ.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly. You got to put it next to your head so we can get some sort of semblance on how big it is.
It's not a solo. That's more like a duo.
Where the fuck do you get solo cups that big? Is that a reusable? Is that a disposable? What is that?
It is a reusable. It's a thick plastic. I want to say we picked this up at maybe Walmart.
Okay, so you would say while playing Shining Force,
the common place that white trash would go to get a giant solo cup.
Okay, but is that the ideal unit of drink or unit measured in drinking when you're doing RPGs, so that you can get just that enough drink so you don't have to get up and break the gameplay? You know what I mean?
No, because if you have a cup this big, then you just have to get up and pee.
No. See, you're missing it. I know this is different for women than men because we have little wieners we can aim. But here's the thing: you get a big enough cup like that, you down it quick enough, and then you can use the cup to pee back into, so you don't have to get up.
Now, that'd be quite awkward
from an old pro. I know women, it's a little different, and some of y'all have talents where you can aim.
Get up and like.
Hey,
Jason,
you know what? I've seen women have some
how the female anatomy works.
Exactly. I've seen women have some great aim with that shit, and how you all do it, I have no idea. You know what I mean? But yeah. Well, anyways, just a tip from me to you. You know what I mean? If you ever want to play RPGs and not have to get up, get a big cup.
You notice how silent me and Derek are being right now? It's because we're actually thinking about the question.
Your answer, you're using just Please, God, I need
You
to
should
come
be
up
as
with
prepared
something.
as I am.
literally, I
You should
can't.
be
Like, you
loyal
son of a
to your
bitch.
favorite game. Obviously, whatever game you choose, it's not really your favorite. Because
Okay,
if it
for the
was,
record-
you'd be able to just like bat that shit out.
I know my answer is a little bit of a cop-out, but I'm sure we'll end up getting into the game anyway, so I don't feel too bad saying it. But I'm going to go ahead and go for the safe answer and reach for
6 or
Chrono
7.
Trigger.
Oh.
Oh, no, I wasn't going to go that bad. I have a fucking soul, Jesus Christ. But the main logic there is because Chrono Trigger is like the one RPG that every year I actually come back and sit down and replay through it. So, I mean, I have a lot of love for that game for a ton of reasons. But I would
The
have
other
to say,
safe answer would have been if someone mentions, Final Fantasy VII. That would be the other cop-out answer.
Or 6.
Or it depends on how old you are, but we seem to be an older group, so yeah.
Okay, well in that case, I'll just skip to my answers, which is just going to be a series of cop-outs.
just a bundle of them.
Yeah, let's just start this off by saying this is a really big question. Obviously, like one of the first games that I ever played. Well, I say obviously because I talk about it in my shows from time to time. But for people who haven't seen those, the first RPG that really drew me in was a turn-based game called Earthbound, which is kind of an obvious
little-known
Oh,
game
that
that
little
no
old
one's
dude.
ever heard of.
Yeah,
Okay.
everybody calls it overrated now, but I still
Children
really enjoy
haven't
it.
heard of Earthbound.
Chrono
They're
Trigger
like, "Who the fuck
is
Ness?"
also one of my favorites, but the go-to that I've been mentioning for a little while now, because it's, it allows me to be at least a little bit of a hipster by saying Terra Enigma, because that wasn't ever released here, and you've probably never heard of it, even though
my God.
I
you,
know it.
you probably have.
You've probably never heard of the game that everyone talks about.
I don't want to sound like
Exactly.
a hipster, but I live in the Pacific Northwest, and you've never fucking heard of this. So
Exactly.
That's-
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't have
The worst
obscure
kept
tastes.
secret in gaming.
I don't have the best I don't have the best words. I'm not Donald Trump here, but but yeah, these are games that I will consistently go back to. Most of them are on the SNES, and usually they're
Excuse you.
yeah. So, anyways,
So is that the answer? You got 3?
yeah, I do. It changes
Okay.
depending on the day, but
All
but for right now, Terra Enigma is my go-to.
All right, I
a good
will
choice.
also do a cop out
Every
then
one of
if
your
you're
choices.
allowed to do multiple ones. I'm gonna break it down by how I break down RPGs. So I got a tactical RPG, an action RPG, and a
Oh
typical.
shit! I need to revisit.
That's
my
completely
question.
understandable then.
Christ.
So
Fucking A.
now you open the can of worms, One Eye. All
no,
right.
that's fair. I did.
So all right. So tactical, I got to go with Final Fantasy Tactics. That game. It arguably could be my favorite, but dude, that game is fucking awesome. Pardon the language. Second would be the action
fuck.
RPG, which Derek, I'm with you, bro. Terra Enigma is freaking amazing. Had Terra Enigma come out here, it would be up there with Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VI,
Absolutely.
easily. It's amazing.
Tomoyoshi Miyazaki's complete.
Yeah. Oh, dude,
success.
don't even. The music is oh my god. And the basic RPG, which JRPG, blah blah blah. I would probably go with. I really am partial to Treasure of the Rooters now. I'm very partial to that game now, which you guys probably don't even know what the hell it is. It's
yeah, that
basically-
sounded like
Oh.
Chinese.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure Daria reviewed that. Didn't
Yeah,
she?
I'm pretty
know
sure
Daria
I know
knows. I know
exactly what
Daria-
it is.
I've heard
think
of it, but I haven't played
It's
it.
Final Fantasy VI art style and kind of play style, but completely different. And it's just I didn't play many Super NES RPGs. Treasure of the Rooters was really the first one I did play. So that probably, kind of like people who play Chrono Trigger over Final Fantasy VI. I'm partial to Treasure of the Rooters now. So yeah,
It's a
There
good
you go.
choice. It is
Yeah.
a really good game.
That
I
was
want to
a- that was a
revisit
pretty
my
good trip.
answer since I
Go ahead.
chose
Okay.
a tactic.
I'll
My
allow it.
action
Yeah.
RPG is Alundra for having
Oh.
one of the darkest storylines in any game I've ever played.
Very good.
And my traditional turn-based is Breath of Fire 3.
Oh yes.
Again,
Wise
for
choices.
being a
brilliant. Oh, that was a great
fucked up
game.
story with a great cast of characters and just a beautiful fucking game.
Oh
Dude,
no!
that big
Okay.
beast guy.
So
Jesus
here's the real question, though.
Christ. Holy shit! No, sorry,
You shut up.
Jared. No. You guys
Maybe we
have
should
been
all go talk
talking
about it somewhere else.
No. You guys have been talking way too much RPGs. You know why? You know who's
That
fucking in the
is the
chat?
topic of the podcast.
You know why? You know why I know this? Look who's in the chat. The prolapser himself,
man.
Avalanche Jarrett, is making a rare Twitch appearance. You have called him out like Beetlejuice. Holy fucking Moses.
Hey,
I have
Jared,
never
while you're
seen
there,
Avalanche
Tactical
Jarrett.
RPG, tactical RPG, tactical RPG.
Exact tactical RPG. Boom. He's like, I'm gonna pull your asshole out. Ooh. Oh, Jesus.
And the podcast goes down.
Yeah, it's like Bloody Mary, except he pulls your asshole inside out when you call his name too many times. So.
Don't leave, guys. Don't leave, viewers. It only goes uphill from here.
This is a good transition though, because Jason, I'm a little bit curious. You're on this episode kind of to play devil's advocate because you're not the biggest RPG fan.
That's true.
Are there any that you like? Out of curiosity, do you have a favorite RPG?
Here's the problem.
No!
Here's the problem, and I'm gonna need the esteemed panel's help to figure this out because it's been questionable to me what would be considered RPG. I've heard the name thrown around tons and tons of times, but I couldn't tell you. Like you guys say, tactical this. There's so many different types of RPG. It's like saying I like metal music. That really doesn't help you narrow it down to what I really like or don't like. So it's hard to say like an RPG game that I can know of that I like. I think I mentioned this in previous podcasts. As I liked Fable 2. I didn't really like Fable 1 or 3, but that really doesn't help it narrow down either. So it's really unfair to say whether or not I like any RPG games because I've really never sat down and played them. Back to what you were talking about, Donovan, with Chrono Trigger. I remember I had a copy of Chrono Trigger. I let it scroll through its little auto scroll, and I saw that psychedelic frog that was there for about 5 seconds, and that's when I turned it off and never turned it on again. I was like, what? I was like, I remember scrolling through because that's supposed to be like a preview, like on a DVD. And all of a sudden, there's a big psychedelic frog, and he starts going like this, giving little Asian kids seizures. And I was like, I don't even want to know what that's about. I don't. How does that figure into Chrono Trigger? I don't get it. So that's the thing.
Well,
a lot of
you have to play
stuff
the game to find out, right?
A lot of things scare me off. Like Daria, I want to know when you said it had the most fucked up storyline to the ones you were talking about. What's that? Give me a brief summary. What do you mean by fucked up? What's fucked up?
Alundra is a story about a guy who can walk into people's minds and kind of fight their psychosis. So these people are plagued by demons that are giving them nightmares, which sounds okay. That sounds like some weeaboo shit, but the thing is, you're not always successful. Like, the game spends so much more time focusing on what's going on in this town and the people's relationships to one another, and then it starts fucking killing them off, like Walking Dead, the RPG. And you're trying so hard to, like, save the characters you like, and they're just dropping like flies.
Jason's like, yeah, that's
Cool
not
gear
dark.
out of it, so.
Doesn't have enough fucking prolapses and fucked up.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
I'm sorry,
no.
there are
I
no
mean,
plot holes,
I'm
but-
asking, is that dark? I mean, is that the dark? What you're talking about?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
pretty much
I mean-
the dark. It's just a depressing game.
Okay.
I mean, I
seriously,
guess you could say
depressing.
Persona 3 is sort of dark as well,
Tell
but
me,
it's kind of
tell
dark
me.
in a different way.
Convince me. What do you mean dark? Tell me dark.
Dark as in, well, it's really hard to sell this one as being particularly dark, but like, okay, so people fight using these things called personas, which are basically things that reflect various traits of their personalities, or at least that's like the idea. And they are able to conjure up these monsters that will fight on their behalf. In Persona 3, they are summoned by using these things called evokers, which look like guns that they like shoot themselves in the heads with to break out of the
I've seen
shell.
that shit.
It's a bit metaphoric, isn't it? And that's like kind of the idea. Like,
What a gentle
here's
metaphor, putting a gun to your fucking head. Like,
yeah, it's a bit blunt and
The
heavy-handed
metaphor
for sure.
that kind of hits you over the head with a brick.
Exactly. And it's, a lot of people die. Okay, so all the fighting and stuff takes place during this 13th hour, or no, I guess 25th hour of the day. At 13 o'clock, basically, everybody who doesn't have this special power turns into coffins, and those who aren't lucky enough to be turned into coffins get attacked by these things called shadows, which, yeah, it's dumb and
You're
weird,
losing us
but
here.
It's like
kinda
you're losing
dumb.
your
I like
conviction
our
halfway
RPG.
through the
Good.
synopsis.
If anybody else wants to
Maybe I
chime in,
should've.
feel free.
I don't like Persona 3, so I'll let you just sync with that one.
Derek?
Yeah, okay.
See, okay, the
Derek?
Persona series is always for me. I've always had a hard time getting into them. Like, the game mechanics are solid, but, like, it's too much. And I know fucking Dubious, I don't know if Jay Dubes is actually in the chat, but I'm pretty sure his dream woman is just Persona 4 Golden. Like, just that on the Vita, just, you know, one thing on a desert island, one thing to love forever and ever, and that's his game. And, like, they're interesting. I don't know if I'd necessarily say dark from what I've experienced, but that also might just be what I've played.
Okay, so here's the other thing. Persona is a spin-off from the Shin Megami Tensei series, which actually is pretty dark, but I can't talk at length about it because I haven't played any of them yet. Any of the mainline SMT games.
Yeah.
So you would have to investigate that on your own, but it's basically all the darkest parts of Persona 3 and backward, and yeah.
At the end of the day, you can't teach Jason Lewis good taste, though. He loves Aliens 3.
I love Aliens 3.
I'm trying to wrap my brain around what was just said. Okay, I know there are words, but you know, not words that I use in daily conversation.
What I'm saying is just don't play Persona 4 Dancing All Night, okay?
Oh my god! You see, you're not. Oh man, we're on a new level with these things. See, that's what I mean. I give it to you. This is great. I love how you guys have enthusiasm for it, but I'm gonna be completely blunt with you. I don't know what the fuck you all are talking about. I mean, you lost me in the third fucking word. It's like they got things and they shoot their heads and they come out with this.
No, Jason.
I mean,
calm
when I
down,
think of
Grandpa.
Wait.
Grandpa, relax. Take your medicine. Chat.
We lost him at
wait.
metaphor.
You take the floor. Explain it to me, then I'm gonna tell you the rest. Go ahead.
Okay, well, chat brings up a good point in that Diablo 1, and in my opinion, kind of the Diablo series, while not necessarily a traditional RPG, that's like a decently dark story. That's sort of like the war between heaven and earth hitting, you know, or heaven and hell hitting earth, and lots of people and villages burning down, people being skinned, demons, all that good shit. Like, that's like classic gothic shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you want something a little bit dark, there's those. And to be honest, non-traditional RPGs might just be something you enjoy anyways. Like, one of my favorite non-traditional tactical RPGs in recent time, and Avalanche Jared, if he's still here, even did a video on it because I told him it was the shit that blew his fucking mind, is Banner Saga. That might be a game that you get into. Fucking Oregon Trail meets Final Fantasy Tactics. Sign me up. That's a good time. And that's got Vikings and shit. And starvation. People
Nothing
freezing.
says metal like Norse Vikings.
Yeah, like
there's nothing non-traditional about that. That's a tactical RPG.
What's a tactical RPG? What's a tactical RPG?
Like a chess game. You're on a grid. Each one of your guys has set limits and abilities. They only get experience from certain campaigns. There's usually not grinding outside of it.
Sometimes, like quite frequently, there's permadeath too, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
At least
permadeath.
If
Shining Force does not.
Well, I mean, like Final Fantasy Tactics has permadeath, but you have like a certain amount of time to revive them. There's options in the new Fire Emblems to allow you not to have permadeath, but permadeath is kind of what makes it so exciting.
Jason, just so you know, permadeath means if the character dies, they don't get resurrected later on with some magical healing item. It just means they're out of the game forever, and you will rue the day you lost them.
It's not,
the storyline of the game will change if they're gone in some of them. Other ones, like
it's a lot harder to get through, you know, further battles with half your team. Like, you keep killing half your players.
And sometimes you even have to choose who you sacrifice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it leads to meaningful encounters, whereas most traditional RPGs, you're just grinding for days on end, whereas in a strategy tactical RPG, each one of those is life and death, and it's like, shit, you know, I have to get through this without losing anyone, otherwise, damn, I'm going to hate that I didn't perfect this Fire Emblem or whatever.
Okay, also, am I the only person who is nerdy enough into this group to have played Warhammer? Am I the only one who's done that?
You are not the only one nerdy enough, sir.
Fuck yeah, that's what I'm talking about. See, that's why I always really like tactics games, is because it was like playing Warhammer, but it would take 4 or 5 fucking hours to do it, you know what I mean? So,
yeah. That's a game where before it's ever over, I'm just bored. It's like, no, I don't even care who wins. Just let this be over.
I mean, even tactical board games I'm super into. Things like Rivet Wars and Battle Lore, stuff like that. Like, all those are great fun. I don't know. Grids are good. I'm behind it. One of the most fun I've had playing a tactics game recently that surprised me was Pokemon Conquest. Am I the only person here who's played that?
Yeah.
I have not
I've
played
never
that.
played it.
No.
Yeah,
What the fuck?
You
Okay.
are.
You're a
Okay,
mainstream
so-
gamer.
I
what
would
can we
play
say?
it. I would play it to review it, but I don't have a 3DS capture card. So
And that is my problem as well.
That's true. Okay, so here's the lowdown. When somebody told me this game existed, I thought it was a fucking joke, and I didn't believe them, right? But Pokemon Conquest, right, is a tactical Pokemon game. So the way that it works is it's like about 7 fucking kingdoms or some shit that are warring with each other over control of the land. And like each region's like a fire region, and they have fire Pokemon, and grass region, all that shit. But the actual game, like, you control the Pokemon, and their moves like have, hit squares and things like that. It's awesome. It's so good. Like, it's everything I love about tactics games, just skinned with like feudalism and Pokemon. It's really fucking weird, but the game is phenomenal, and I highly recommend it. It was one of those
it's
sleeper hits.
relatively
Such
inexpensive
an
too.
odd combination of themes.
It is fucking weird. It doesn't sound right, and the game's long as shit too, which is like pretty par for tactical RPGs. It's one of those
Pokemon's been
things.
doing some weird shit. I really want to play that like Detective Pikachu game. Like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
The what?
That looks fun.
Film noir adventure Pikachu.
He's a fucking detective?
He's a
Yep.
Pikachu detective.
How the
I
fuck
will
does he
play it if it's
Like
communicate?
voiced
He
by
has
Danny
one
Pikachu
word.
DeVito.
as Bob Hoskins from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Like that's
That would have got old real quick, right there. Pika! Pikachu! Pika!
See, I'm interested in
Jesus
it because I'm a
Christ.
big
Can
fan
can
of
the
Wait.
Pokemon talk yet? Can the Pokemon talk? How many
Yes.
games? Can they talk?
he can.
When did that happen?
Well, the game that I'm talking about, he has a deep, like fucking grouchy voice.
Ooh. I wonder if I can
Yeah.
get a job
where
maybe
my
later down the line.
cigarettes
Yeah,
at?
there's a whole. Someone in the chat just mentioned there's a whole campaign that people are trying to get Danny DeVito to voice him in the American localization
Yeah.
because it's just a perfect combination.
That's actually pretty cool. I'll
Yes.
give it that. That's
Pops
actually
out of a couch all sweaty and naked, just like.
Oh my god!
I don't know if that's scenes in there.
If the critics
It's
triumph
about to
of
get
return as a
really weird.
Pokemon, yeah.
So I haven't seen any gameplay from that, but is it like Phoenix Wright and Professor Layton? Is it like those?
I believe. Well, Professor Layton's more puzzles strung together, but I believe it's like.
Yeah.
I thought it looked a lot like Famicom Detective Club, which I don't know if anyone's played that here.
I have not heard of that.
It's a first party visual novel from Nintendo.
That is some otaku sounding shit right there. Visual
Yeah.
novel. Be careful.
It was
where we
for
go.
the Saddle of You, the downloadable Super Nintendo system. So it was a game that they made specifically for it.
Yeah, like the BS Zelda games and
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay, so one thing I've noticed, interestingly enough, though,
Segway.
yeah.
You know what? It's not a segue. Adventure games and RPGs have a very close history.
Yeah,
It's not that far off from one another.
bringing it in a little bit. What exactly do you guys? Okay, what's the difference between an action adventure game and an action RPG? I know we were arguing about this.
Oh,
So I want to
Jesus.
hear everyone's specific fucking answer.
Honestly, I have one thing that's probably the biggest divider. Experience points. That's
yeah,
it.
that's what I was gonna say. Stat system experience
Yeah,
points is
that-
what
yeah.
honestly is the only difference between the two. Which
I
is
mean-
why I'm just like, you know what, action adventure, come on over, join my RPGs. You're close
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah, same here. Action RPGs action adventure games do have a slight stat system. Like Legend of Zelda has various levels of swords, so your attack power increases as you go through the swords, and you
It's
have
It's a
Okay.
symbolic.
hit points as you
stat
acquire
system.
hearts.
You know,
Yeah,
they're items
exactly.
that represent your advancement in the game, not intrinsic
Not
skills.
numbers. Exactly.
Yeah, not numbers.
I would say they walk a fine line, but that's also saying the extreme action adventure game. Extreme action adventure games that err on RPG sides, that is true, but there are ones that are completely on the opposite side.
That's
Like,
true.
you can
Like
say you
Oblivion,
can say
for
Uncharted is an action adventure game. I mean, you can say like talking about modern shit. So experience points is a big one. I'd also say that you see numbers on the screen in an action RPG. So when you hit something, it shows you how much damage it did.
Not
Versus in
necessarily.
Zelda.
Some of that stuff's just done underneath the. They hide it, you know.
I know, but I'm saying for me, that's one of the telltale. I mean, it really depends on what you classify a genre as, because they're so close You know, it's just
Yeah.
like, oh, that is and that isn't. So it's just a
Like-
matter of what
Yeah.
you define.
Like on Secret of Mana, when you would stab somebody, you could see the 97 hit points done, as
Yeah.
opposed to Legend of Zelda. It's like, well, this guy takes 4 hits to kill. It tell you can find out how many hits, but you don't know how many hit points as that.
Yeah. Like an RPG will tell you kind of what you have to do to succeed at times, or it'll let
It's a
you
little
know,
less
oh,
opaque.
he had.
Yeah.
Yeah. Versus an action game where it's like, oh shit, he's turned redder.
He's raging out. Okay, so then by your definition, we would say that the Borderlands series is an action RPG.
Yeah, actually, it's got
Is
a
that
lot
the
of
term
action
you would
RPG
use?
Things.
I've heard it described as such.
Borderlands
I would
was
say more-
advertised as an RPG. Like,
It's
that's
more
on the
of a-
box. It's not just, hey, could you classify it? It's like, no, that's what the developers were going for.
Yeah.
So,
And it definitely has strong RPG elements. I'm not arguing
yeah.
that. But I've also heard the statement that it's almost just a first-person dungeon crawler and not so much an RPG, though you could argue that dungeon crawler is a subgenre of RPGs, wouldn't you say?
Well, Some of
Dungeon
that is
crawler
just-
typically refers to like a first person, well, I won't get into that, but yeah, it depends on what you mean by dungeon crawler, but
I would say it's more just the fact that everything has started to borrow RPG elements, and then that's Borderlands is simply a first-person shooter that's.
dungeon crawlers were the first
everything.
RPGs.
No, I mean as far as like everything, like Division's an RPG, Destiny's an RPG, Mass Effect
That's
is an
fair.
RPG. Like everything has used the skill
Mass Effect
trees,
is an RPG.
tropes.
It's a
That's what
BioWare
I mean.
game. That was,
That's what I mean. Like, but
That's
every
an
game is
RPG.
using skill trees, and
RPG.
yeah.
Well,
It's
now
almost
the popular
become-
thing is to say it has RPG elements.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
Like
that-
sometimes
I would like to
you
see
get
a
this
Final
little
Fantasy
box,
game with RPG elements.
and you open it up, and it's got little RPG bits in it, but it doesn't make it. It doesn't taint the game. It just has an accessory.
I'm not saying it tainted the game, but it's ruining genres because they need to, stop
What?
doing that.
No. See, you need to stop thinking in genres. Stop. Like, I'm going to play this game, but it's a shooter. Oh, it's a thing. Let developers pick and choose the features that are going to enhance whatever they're going to try to accomplish.
But we've been doing that, and now look at the glut of the same similar games we have now. Like, it's
No,
a certain
that's
point you need
that
to
is
cut and
marketing.
dry
These are
and say, hey, this is going to be just
suits
this. We don't need to have 50 different elements of everything into it.
No, that's a bunch of suits for big companies sitting around going, well, market research shows that gamers like these kind of games, and they're safe and they'll buy them, so we need to make more of that. That is taking control away from developers who would normally be like, okay, I want to make this batshit crazy game. And that's the shit you're seeing on, like, the indie stuff coming out on Steam.
That's why
where people
indie
have
games are
full
great.
control. Don't look at the AAA shit, because they're going to keep selling you the same game in a different skin.
Okay, so I guess the statement is that RPGs are RPG elements are really common in most games nowadays.
Yeah.
So that line can
Yep.
get very blurry depending on what they're in. So I guess
Whenever-
this sort of
Whenever somebody
Fields
wants
me
to
into a
add depth
question.
to a game, they just throw in some RPG elements.
some
Well,
sort
Well,
of
if you think
grind
about it,
factor.
the original, like, RPGs were originally like, we want to emulate life. Here's a set of rules that are going to make things more realistic. And as games have gotten more advanced, they're just becoming realistic anyway.
Holy shit.
So hold on. Why is
Holy
Jason
shit.
laughing? This
Why is
sounds
that
like
funny?
a good Jason Lewis.
No.
Yeah. What-
Why is this funny?
Am I the only person who just like had a little squirt come out in my pants when she said that? We've only been talking for 30 minutes about shit that never happens in life. You know what happens when I get up in the morning, I eat breakfast, I take a shit, I go to work, I come home, I sleep, I fuck my wife. That's all that happens in life. What you're talking about, having weird shit come out because you shoot yourself in the head, doesn't happen. So how is that
Okay,
real life
I'm just gonna
roleplay?
say-
I'm
just gonna say,
I'm
Jason-
talking about, like the laws of physics or the things they're trying to
Oh,
emulate.
because that's a
things that
stretch. You
are-
know, if I go on the moon, the fucking laws of physics still apply.
I
Holy
have to
shit.
take a moment here, Jason. I'm sorry to interrupt,
Oh,
but
shit.
you said you come home, you fuck your wife, and I'm gonna just have to say
Yeah.
citation needed.
Citation needed. I'm just
Okay, I
saying. I'm just
I
saying. No,
think-
I just found that very comical. I'm not trying to jump on you.
Okay,
Alex, but
I
just
think
the way
a
you
better
said
point
it.
to make about it being like a reflection of life is the sense that, like, you know, a person, you know, could have a different strength than somebody else or like a different agility. You know, you could kind of argue that that's how it is. You know what I mean?
Run faster? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like I think it's more of a statement on the concept of like stats than it is
Well, let's be
shimming
fair.
out
I mean,
Tetsu's real fucking life.
it may have been, but it's an imagination world. Nobody
yes, it's
nobody does a
definitely
real
escapism.
role playing game. Yeah, no, I mean there are. I mean by that definition, though, I mean wouldn't like a role playing game be something like like The Sims was, or some of the other games that are like that, where they take real life situations and they try to have
Okay,
you do
here's
them.
the thing though.
Well, those are
The
God
Sims-
games.
those
Those
are
you're not playing a
simulation
character.
games.
You're playing this guy up here controlling little puppets.
Yeah, but
See
that's
how
real
we're
life,
talking
though. That's
about
real life,
genres. Oh, we all love
I'm just-
genres.
That's only life if you're religious.
No, I'm just
if you're
asking.
Not religious. This isn't life.
No, I'm asking,
Okay,
isn't
no,
that
Jason,
like real
here's
life,
the
though,
difference.
right?
With the things with like Sims and stuff like that, those are simulation games. That's where you're like controlling an environment and simulating what happens there. The difference with an RPG is like it's a simulated environment, but you're like directly something in that environment. Does that make sense? Like I think that's the
Yeah,
big
but
difference
role-playing
between those
game
two
is not a
stuff.
basis from real life, though. That's what she was saying.
Okay, I think
It can't be. It's not
All right,
possible.
moving on.
Speak that a
Moving
little
on.
bit.
We're getting
No,
stuck
no,
in
that's what she
semantics.
said. I'm not getting semantics. That's what she said. It's based off of real life, and that's it. It's not.
Well, she
It
was
can't
going
be
a little
like
broad, yes,
realistic
but I
scenarios,
think what she,
but-
yeah.
They're not realistic. And that's what I
Not-
mean. They're not.
No.
They're not realistic. They can't be.
whatever.
It's not
Jason,
even
if your
close.
real life isn't
Hey,
Fable,
Derek,
then
your
you're
sound's
fucking
off
up.
again.
No, I'm gonna say. As I was saying, some of the others RPG. If you're gonna go realistic, the only real RPGs are role-playing games that adults play. And when I say that, I mean when you pretend that you're somebody else and they are like they're your neighbor or you whatever.
We
kind
don't
of
want to
weird
know
role-playing
more about
games
you
you're
and your
playing.
wife's bedroom
No.
behavior,
I'm just
man.
saying
Come on.
that's the real role. That's the only real role playing because I'm pretending I'm somebody else so that we can. Play
You
adult
are
games.
completely ignoring the LARPing.
No, when I pretend that I'm like a fucking demon trying to help the world survive from little pigs
With
in
your
the air,
car.
that's not real. There's no realism.
Jason, I think that what you're completely overlooking here is the intention of the spirit of the statement, which is that if I'm understanding correctly, which is that in 1987 when Dragon Quest was released, games before that were like Mario or Pong,
Yeah.
relative to other games at the time, it's a little more closely related. And then other games that
Yes,
were
thank you.
derivative of those,
It's like fantasy. is what
continued
it
the
is.
tradition. Yeah, it's a fantasy.
It's a fantasy,
but
yeah. Yeah,
it gives you
fantasy.
more options.
Yeah, I know. I get it. I'm just saying it's fantasy. It's not real life. That's all I'm saying. It's not based off
Okay,
real life.
I'm
It's
saying
fantasy.
realism as
Wait, it's
in
not
when you
real
play a
life?
game now that's like you're playing Skyrim and people are like, ooh, this has a lot of realism. They're not, obviously, we're not Nordic Vikings fighting dragons. But the game has...
What's realism, though? What do you mean by that?
Permadeath is real life. I lost that guy. He did not come back.
Okay, give me another
He didn't
example. That's
eat
an easy
another
one.
mushroom and get big.
Yeah, what's another example? I'm trying to.
What?
I'm trying to understand. I don't
Why
know.
are we
real
letting
life-
Jason
like
control
going to a
the
I
shop
don't know.
and
Why
buying
are
that
they
is
things.
not-
overtaking
I'm
this
starting
RPG
this.
like
No,
that?
Moving
I'm going
on.
to indulge the old man, but I'm going to reel the reins back in. I'm going to take this under control. Jason, an on-topic question. Digression aside, what is your opinion on the bleeding of RPG elements into most genres nowadays? That sounds like a fucking show.
The bleeding
That's a
of
well-done
the
question.
bleeding of RPG. Can someone give me like top 3? What you mean by that, so I can kind of make sure we're
Oh,
on the
well,
right
I mean,
page.
like when
Kill
we were talking
trees.
about Borderlands earlier. It's like a first-person shooter game that has
Yeah.
RPG elements and things like that.
Okay.
Call of Duty has also acquired a lot of those things too, right?
Customization in general.
Yes. Okay. Custom. So now you're saying
Level ups.
customization and a leveling up system is part of RPGs?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
It's like
Wow.
That's like what?
You RPG fucks have a real
Can
self-inflated
we have a
thing of
show
y'all.
where
You know what I mean?
Where we
Shit,
like
wait a
play
minute.
Skype game of like D&D and make Jason roll a character.
No, I'm just saying.
No,
It's
but
like,
Jason,
whoa,
Jason,
if
think
you
about
guys
it.
are
What
playing
kind of customizations do you really have in Castlevania? Do you have in Mario?
I get it.
There
but
aren't
when-
any.
But when you make a broad statement like that, you know what I mean? That's
Castlevania
pretty
one.
big.
When you have various different ways to
Well,
play
not
the game where there's no exact one way to do it, that's a very RPG-like thing,
yeah.
and that's what I mean by customization.
I get it. I'm just trying to figure out the broad, because the way you stated it, the way that was stated to me, it's like you made the light bulb and now you're claiming that you made the sun too, because that can't happen. That they're not exclusive to either one. So
I don't know where you made that jump.
Call
but
of
all
Duty,
right.
Call of Duty, though. I mean, the leveling up system, they've had that almost in every shooting game. Is that what you're talking about? Where you can basically level up in prestige and do
yeah,
things like that.
Okay,
other
so
shooting
we're
games
saying
like
that
what GoldenEye or
Any-
prior
any-
like Doom.
Halo,
No,
progression
Halo,
system?
stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, they took that
Nah.
from us too.
Let me get my
I
dick out.
invented the internet.
You
Come
guys
More
on.
can't
like-
see me, but
more
I'm
like
pulling my
in
pants
what-
down so I can get my dick out on the table. Is that what we're doing? Oh, RPGs gave us that? Where did I miss
It
that
doesn't matter
train?
when they stole it from us.
Are you
it's
telling
just
me?
you know.
Oh, I got you. So a bunch of fucking mages gave first-person shooters the right to do level ups. I get it. I missed that. Okay.
I'm just saying,
he cast a
it's
little spell from the fake world and went over to the
it's
real
a
world.
trope that was gifted unto the
Holy
world
shit.
through the greatness that is
Ooh.
RPGs.
You know what, Derek?
Okay.
You've convinced me, Derek. Next time I see you, I'm going to blow you because some of my favorite first-person shooter games have level up stats. I didn't know. I was clueless this whole time.
You're playing RPGs.
Shit, I didn't know. I'm in a role-playing game. I'm in a role-playing game.
I'm glad we're finally on the same page.
Exactly. Oh,
I'm in a role-playing game. It's all real life.
I'm in a role-playing game. Exactly. It all makes sense.
You can role play while you suck off Derek.
Exactly.
I was gonna say, Jason,
I'll do
by
it
the way,
at the same
get more
time.
cat fair, okay?
That's great. I'm gonna put that word out. No, I'm just trying to figure it out. As much as I joke, I mean, I don't know. Is that what you mean?
More like
give
in
me an
Mass
idea.
Effect
Give me some
3
idea.
when you could make 50 bajillion different weapons.
Now, Mass Effect, I will
with
give you
schematics.
that. Mass Effect and BioShock. Those games, those would be kind of examples that I can think of in my mind that to relate to what you're talking about. Games that have
Or
really
Dead
blurred.
Space. Dead Space.
Dead
3
know,
Space.
did.
Blurred the lines
It
on that.
just occurred to me that Jason is so ignorant to the RPG genre. And no offense,
Ooh.
but the
Even though
fact
black
that
people in here.
he might be thinking of like going to levels, as in that's a level up, whereas we're talking about stats that are increasing.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh no, you asked me. What do you?
I think
what-
there's definitely
Help
a
me.
Maybe that's,
Fucking help! You,
breakdown.
you gotta help me. I don't know anything. You know what I mean? Think of me as like you went to another planet, like you're in a role-playing game, and you found me, Jason, a simple man living his simple life, and you take
Okay.
me to your ship, and you go, Jason, let's teach you how can we
It
relate?
sounds like the
Think
opening
of
to
it like
Star
that.
Ocean right now, man.
Yeah.
You got a
When
tail.
we say level up, just so you know, that usually means like in a first person shooter, for instance, that would usually mean, hey, after getting so many points of shooting people, you get to spend these points to increase various stats. That's what we mean by level up, not necessarily going to the next level, which was like what, Mario? I mean,
No. I
probably
mean level. Well, like in Call of Duty, what you're saying, you level up. And you can prestige so that you get the different weapons. So you get different abilities: a faster run, a higher jump, more stamina, things like that. What you're talking about?
No,
Well, not
that's
necessarily.
In Call
more
of
in
Duty,
first-person
in Call of
shooter.
Duty, progression doesn't change gameplay though, right? I mean, it gives you different guns and like
Yeah.
equipment and shit, but it doesn't actually change your stats, right? So my question here is: are we saying that progression counts as like, like stat growth and things like that? Are those two things one and the same, or are they not mutually exclusive, like squares rectangle sort of deal?
like I would say that, when Mario gets like fireball power, that's not a level up. That's
I think we're pissing off Chew Toy TV.
I was gonna say it is to him. I don't know if you've ever tried to kill.
I think
enemies.
the chat makes a good point though about Symphony of the Night. That is an excellent example of a game that was a different genre that took RPG elements and made something great.
Okay, there we go.
And it's really good.
That's
game, too.
relatable.
That's a good example.
I've played
That's
it.
what I'm talking about.
I've played it.
That was
Okay.
a Castlevania game. It took RPG elements. It also took Metroid elements, and that made kind of a different experience.
I got you.
And then since
match made
then,
in heaven.
that's kind of the thing.
I got you. So your original question.
and don't worry
was
about you,
how-
Toy. He's just a troll.
He's cool. So you're saying, but the original question was, how do I feel, or what do you think about the bleeding over of games?
Yeah,
to make games like
because-
that.
Yeah, because you don't necessarily like RPGs. So how do you feel about games that have RPG elements? And from the sounds of it, you like Mass Effect, which that is, I think, just straight up an RPG.
I don't, but that's fine.
Oh, you don't?
I don't.
Oh.
I don't like. I don't like that.
Bad example.
Bad,
never mind.
I just know
Like
it.
this-
Okay,
yeah.
I know it. So
This
that's
is
all
why I
mean.
like Rocket League, though. This is why I like Rocket League is because it doesn't have RPG elements. It just has skins. It's the same gameplay no matter what. There's no difference in gameplay versus one car versus the other. And that's one of the reasons why I think that's been so popular right now, is because it's just a pure gaming experience without 50 bajillion different ways to play it.
That's one of the things that people are saying they really like about Overwatch. I mean, not to plug the shit I've been doing lately, but like, it's like a Team Fortress-esque first-person shooter, but the difference is everybody gets all the characters right off the bat. Like, all player progression is purely cosmetic. There's nothing that changes the game. So are we just saying that the difference between, like, just progression that doesn't count as, like, RPG elements is when it's just purely cosmetic, not mechanical? Is that the line between the two?
Well, I would say Overwatch is the exact thing I'm talking about, because Overwatch, every single character plays differently. So, no, that's just a different genre in general. Yeah, I think you made a fair point there.
Because, like, those two things are really close and kind of hard to differentiate, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, to be fair, a lot of the things that we defined as, like, genre-defining RPG elements are kind of murky. Like, for example, I know I'm the only person in Multitapped who does it, but I play MOBAs, you know what I mean? And MOBAs, like, those have characters with stat growth and level
Oh no,
growth.
those
and
are total.
like that.
Those are like arena RPGs. Like I play League of Legends.
Well,
I don't
but
really
you
play
would-
much anymore, but that's
You
definitely.
would call it an arena RPG? Because, like, I mean, working in the industry for it, like, I've heard it always called a MOBA, you know, multiplayer online battle arena, like that differentiation, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So would you count those as a subgenre of RPG? Because, like, they definitely have certain RPG elements, but I don't know if they would be clearly defined as an RPG.
I'd say it's more like another genre taking RPG elements because it is its own dedicated. It took a strategy game and it mixed in an RPG. So it kind of it's a MOBA. It's its own genre.
I think
But
that
it definitely yeah.
I think that another thing that has to be taken into consideration is that RPGs aren't just a collective of mechanics. RPGs are also they give the player a certain sense of adventure and wonder and exploration, and they like to tell a story. And it's not like those are things that can be easily defined either, but they are things that tend to motivate players to play them in different ways. And I touched on this earlier on a video that I did not too long ago, where I touched on the fact that I feel like RPGs can sort of be defined by the motivating factors that bring players in. MOBAs definitely bring people in because they like playing competitively, which is something that I really dislike as a RPG player, and that's a really big defining factor. At least for me. But then there's also MMOs, which have some PvP elements, which is kind of competitive. So again, it gets murky. But I feel like if your motivating factor to play a game isn't at least somewhat, for the sense of adventure or the sense of building up your player or your character, then you're probably not playing an RPG. That's.
I know what you're saying.
Half the games that people are like, these are tactical RPGs. Half the time, I'm like, not really. Like, those are just strategy games.
I think some of the RPG has an epic scope and nature. It's an epic. Like if it's like comparing an action movie versus like a 4-hour like kind of just you spend a lot of time in them. I mean, RPGs take a lot of time. That's one of the defining factors of them.
I don't think time is a defining factor. I've played 10 hours. I mean, Super Mario RPG takes like 10 hours to beat.
And
if you
one
know,
of my favorite
if you know what
RPGs
you're
for the
doing.
record.
You can ask my girlfriend. She's played 10 hours of Super Mario RPG, and I think she barely got through the second zone.
Yeah, I can believe that. I can believe that a lot. I have a question for the panel because I believe this is an interesting thing that I've thought about and it brings me. It came to mind when you guys were talking about me not being a fan of RPGs and being a fan of another type of game, which there's plenty of people in the chat who are fans of as well. And it makes me wonder because it's weird. I've told people many times I have many games that I play, and I guess I would be like a old school 8-bit, but more of like a side scroller or beat 'em up type fan, right? That's the kind of games that I play, which are a different skill set than what you all play, because it's a totally different thing. If you're good at one, doesn't necessarily mean you'll be anywhere close to good at the other ones, and I mean at high levels. Even like what Donovan plays, I can play a game with Donovan, the kind of style Don plays, but I'll probably never be anywhere close as good, mainly because I don't have the patience for it. But
ever played River City Rampage?
No, I have not played it. But what I'm saying here is, though, on that, and this is interesting, because when I think of RPGs, and not that I think they're a bad form of gaming or nothing, but I do believe that in some point I get concerned when I watch people play RPGs a little bit more than I would play the other ones. And I wonder which one, if anyone has any thoughts on which is more healthy for the actual psyche as a person to play one or the other, because they're definitely two different ones. To me, it's almost like, because games in itself, in the very definition, it doesn't matter, we're not talking video games, but games, football, basketball, any of the other weird games we used to play, were all designed to keep us occupied or ready back when we used to kill each other for different purposes or to keep your mind sharp. So translate it to the same scenario, now we do it for entertainment purposes, but at least I could always say when I play games that I'm a very hands-on learner when it comes to certain things like consistency, which is why I was good at lots of different sports that were not formed around a group. They were individual sports. I was never good at group sports. and I do things like that, guitar, stuff like that, that takes a certain skill level for consistency and repeating patterns, which is probably why I'm so good at side-scrolling. When it comes to RPGs, I can't stand them because they're just too long for me. And then I'm not a very whimsical person where I can get involved in in-depth storylines that really want to pull me in. I don't want to go live another life for any particular point during my day. I play things like Terminator 1 because they're a pain in the ass on NES, and I want to beat the living fuck out of them by showing it I can learn the pattern. But I wouldn't get any joy
Jason,
out of
would you
playing
say
RPGs.
it's fair to say that you don't like thinking?
No. I'm just thinking, which one's better, though? I mean, let's be fair. RPG, my biggest problem with...
I'm just saying, think about it like this. So, for me, tactical RPGs are my forte. I love those because I like to look at a playing field, and I like to look at all the different scenarios that could play out, and then take action. And is that something that you just don't care?
No,
that's kind of a team sport thing. Like in a team sport, all right, I got to know that my quarterback's doing this, my running back's doing this. Like you have a field for the whole game at once.
I play.
Is it more that you just want to? What's that?
I play StarCraft. So I think like StarCraft Command and Conquer. So I do enjoy playing.
So you like strategy?
It's a little different though because it's always constantly moving.
But here's the thing too. That's why I never got on the online games, because I always felt like as much as I like StarCraft, as much I used to spend many hours of my day playing it. When you're talking about a game that has no end, like I could put a Nintendo game on and I could beat it and master it, and at some point it's going to stop, that there's no more to do, right? It's finished, right? But what your guys are talking about with RPGs, the biggest thing I've always been interested about was there is no almost ever, you can never run out of ways to play the games. Unless it's just like a really old game where there wasn't, it's just limitations by its graphic. It changes so much, it multiplies. So my other problem was people I used to watch do that would get sucked into it so much that they lose what they're trying to do. They lose their basic skills, which I always felt.
Those are sandbox games.
And I'm not saying you guys, but I'm saying these RPG games like what you're talking about. That's the reason why I kind of never got into them either, because like, fuck, I'm spending like a good percentage of my life doing this and it's not doing anything for me. But I'm just saying, for the general person, which is more dangerous, the ones you guys are talking about, or the other kind, the side
MMOs. MMOs are the most dangerous.
Well, RPGs have to be locked in there, because if MMOs are the most dangerous, RPG is the gateway. It definitely would not be side scrollers as the gateway.
Debatable.
Then what's a suitable gateway drug? RPGs the coke, fucking MMOs are the goddamn heroin. I mean, that's the...
RPGs is such a big genre, though. I mean, you're saying RPGs and you're talking about, like, one specific thing, but there's all different kinds. I'm sure if you tried, you could find something you enjoyed playing. There's a lot more action-based ones.
I think that your standard chat room would be the closest thing to a gateway drug to an MMO, just because the MMOs heavily emphasize the social aspect. And if you're just a lonely person who, doesn't have much going for him on the outside world, and that's not to generalize, but the people who lose their livelihood to these games, that's probably the kind of thing that they're looking at, The kind of people who don't have a great social network out, AFK, away from the keyboard. It's probably those kinds of people who get more easily sucked into these online environments where it's easier to interact with people and develop a social connection. But that's my armchair.
No, and I agree with
psychology.
you.
No, it's true, and it's always you always have something to do that never ends.
Yeah,
and especially that's why World of Warcraft was so huge. I played 2.5 years of nothing else but WoW. I logged like almost 250 days playing, like legitimate 24-hour days, and it's just every day you could get on and do something new. And this, I mean,
I don't know. I played 2 months of WoW, and I was bored at the end. Like I had nothing to do.
When did you play 2 months though? When?
It was a couple of years ago.
That's why.
Why?
When
it's been around for fucking ever.
When it came out, I played it 2005 to 2008, and that's like the heyday kind of thing. And oh my god, like, ugh.
Yeah.
See, it's also interesting because MMOs
I played it before they came out with the pandas. It was
Cataclysm. Cataclysm was so drastically different because they made it so you didn't have to earn anything anymore. When WoW first came out, you needed 40 people to get like freaking one piece of gear. Then when Cataclysm came out, you could get a full set of gear in 1 week.
See, and like WoW is a weird thing too, because Derek brings up the fact that he thinks one of the big draws of MMOs and things like that is that there's a social aspect to it, right? And I've played WoW on and off. Like a lot of times, the hardest I ever played it was during Wrath of the Lich King, and on Kel'Thuzad, because PvP is my fucking shit. I like curb stomping noobs. I'm into it. Like, I played on KT, Alliance on KT, because I like a thorough butt fucking in a challenge. And, you know, hit Grandmaster on my Druid, all that shit, you know what I mean? So, like, I played WoW, but I never, like, joined a fucking guild. I never, like, interacted with people. Like, literally every single time I have ever played WoW, I've played it solo. Not even a joke. Like, maybe with whatever girlfriend I have at the time, and we'll, like, make some characters and play them together. But, like, whenever I've played it, I've always played it solo. And I've tried it a bunch of different ways, too.
It sounds like MOBAs were made for you, dude.
Yeah, they fucking are. You have no idea. I'm so into them. But, like, the point I'm trying to make is, you know, I've played them where you're doing all the questing and stuff like that. And admittingly, in WoW, it's a little bit different because I might be a little bit of a Blizzard fanboy. And I'm sure Jason can agree with me being a StarCraft fanboy. But I generally feel like Blizzard has really good writing. So, like, solo questing in WoW wasn't too bad because it was a universe that I was interested in. You know what I mean? And on the same note, to farm gold, I went and created a character on Moonguard, which is the biggest furry server in the fucking world, that I would just use to, you know, grind mounts and sell them on the marketplace. And that server is a hard RP server. No PvP, just straight role playing. And that was the weirdest experience of my fucking life, right? Because I made the mistake of rolling a panda on that server, and it's a furry server. So I literally had just people just being like, walks up and touches you. Wow, what soft, luscious fur. Like, I got sexually assaulted. I got sexually assaulted playing World of Warcraft that way. So, like, there was never really a social aspect to MMOs for me, and I think that's why I never got, like, hardcore drop out of college addicted to them.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think that, I was just about to say, I don't think that's a contradiction, because look at where you are right now. I mean, playing MOBAs. You didn't get sucked into World of Warcraft. You still have a social life. Look at all of us. We are your social life.
Yeah.
You're one of us.
Although technically we're a guild that would be in WoW. That's kind of what this is reminding me of.
I just want to state one more thing too, and because it's interesting what we were talking about this off the air when Mr. Derek had a problem with his Samsung device, which we won't talk about because he's a whatever. My concern, and I think I'm gonna attack the younger generations, and unfortunately Don is part of them, but I don't feel he's part of them because somewhere he grew up a little bit more faster than normal. But my biggest concern is this, and I'll just lay it on the table. You guys can talk amongst it, see what you think. We as a generation, the ones who are old enough, the ones in this room with the exception of One Eye, but
here it goes.
He's one of us, okay? When we grew up, and this is just it, and you can debate it all you want. Video games when we grew up were still considered to be the taboo or not quite the as popular as they are now. Okay, so when we played games, it wasn't socially accepted like our parents who were 30 and 40 were going to automatically play them or even understand what we were doing. It was kind of still an underground. Even when Nintendo blew up after with Mario 3 and Super Nintendo, it really was still underground until it got to the disc-based games where I think it started taking over into the more mainstream. We see them in movies and all kinds of stuff like that. But so I think we learned at a younger age because we had other stuff to where it wasn't surrounding the life that we did have to learn how to do other things like go outside and do shit like that and whatever. So I think we have a good handle on when we can walk away and not let these games take over our lives. My bigger concern is, especially with back to Derek Samsung, with the introduction of VR and the capabilities for this technology to get even more immersive. So what you guys are talking about, RPGs, MMOs, whatever all of these different versions are, it doesn't matter if the genre or you can get the specific genre, is that the younger generations as they grow up, it's more acceptable to get lost in these games from an extended period of time. And I think as the technology allows them to, they will get further and further drawn back. A larger population will get further drawn back to where they're no longer socializing with their human counterparts. That's my concern.
I'll admit VR
got
is
into
scary.
RPGs first.
What was it like when the Pong machine came out, Jason?
No, I'm not saying. I know what Alex. I'm not saying that adults
My dad
didn't.
quit smoking by playing Dragon Warrior.
I'm not saying adults didn't, but I'm saying the majority of adults back then would not touch video games. Some of them did. Nowadays, it's socially acceptable. My mom knew what a Wii was when it came out because it was so well marketed. And they didn't want to play games like I would want to play. They were playing like bowling and sports games. It became a staple now that people play that. Yeah.
Dude, everybody played Tetris. Like that was like the Wii of back in the day. Everybody played Tetris. So there was at least some cultural acceptance of it at that.
Yeah,
time.
but Tetris
Like, it
was a different
wasn't-
kind of game.
It
though.
wasn't.
It was video games were like that was everyone played them. It wasn't.
Everyone
I
may
think
have played those kind of
because he
games,
was
but not
a
the kind of talk about.
teenager. He was a teenager when they were starting to blow up. So he had all the people like saying, "Oh, you're fucking, you're lame for like that." You're like when I was growing up, it was never a thing. And for older people, like my dad played Contra with us. He played games.
Yeah.
So I don't. It may
We
be
gotta
part of the
think-
fact that you're just that genuine old man,
The
Jason.
NES era, my dad was in his late 30s, early 40s. That's not that old. That's, fucking our age.
Hell, that's us.
Yeah, but let's be fair though. Contra and Tetris are different. Tetris, I almost put on the level of what Pool or what any of the other games were. It's not like you're going to sit there and beat it.
Mainstream.
RPG is totally. It moved into it, but RPG is
Okay,
a
so
totally
wait,
different thing.
just to clarify, I said this in chat, and I want to make sure I'm right. The point you're trying to make is RPGs fucking ruin lives, and that's the problem. Is like video games are accepted, so
No,
RPGs
what
are
I'm
just taking
saying
people's
is
social ability.
What I'm saying is this: it is now very acceptable for a child to get a PlayStation
True
4.
RPGs are a very social experience.
I
It's
know.
a bunch of people getting around that don't normally do things and doing something social together. That's their...
Why are they not doing
Social
something
aspect.
social together, though? That's the question. That's the
Because
real
they-
question.
Because people suck.
Yeah, people are assholes and make fun of people for being different or too tall or their ears are too big or their face
We all
has
got
too much
picked on in
act.
middle school. We were all there. I'm sure you
Yeah.
were, Chief Lewis.
No, I was.
Jason doesn't remember middle school
No,
anymore.
school was very hard, and I did get picked on or made fun of. I have a shitty time in school too, but having that experience made me the person I am now. Not having that experience, I
A
believe, is
grumpy fuck.
No, I'm not saying not having that experience though. I think can be just as detrimental. Especially
That's the
from a
problem.
racial side.
Jason's salty because he never played RPGs, so he never learned the power of friendship.
You're
and
right. We
unity.
figured it out. This is like Geraldo or something. I figured out why I'm an asshole. I didn't play RPGs. I never learned how to pretend to be a dragon master, motherfucker.
At the end of this chat, we will convince you were
Oh,
raped
well,
by your
exactly.
father.
Exactly. What now? My dad hated video
furries.
games, by the way. My
What?
dad
They
hated
could be
video
raped
games.
by
He only
furries.
ever bought
that's-
one CD in his life too, and a Sly and the Family Stone, which is a very strange CD, by the way. So.
To be fair, I mean, I think you're half right and you're half wrong. Because, like, for example, my parents got me... My first console was a PS1, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, like, one of the first games I ever got for it was Final Fantasy IX. And so, like, that was a game that really got me into RPGs because it was, like, a good game, and I sat down and played a fuck ton of it, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But, like,
How long has
my
it been
entire
since we
life,
talked
it's
about
been
this?
fucking Chinese to my parents. They don't understand video games at all. Like, I do it professionally, and, like, literally, my dad didn't stop making fun of them until I sat him down and showed him, like, a fucking live stream of a tournament I played in that had fucking, 5,000-6,000 viewers in it. I'm like, look, no, it's like a fucking thing. People actually watch this. This is, like, a thing. This isn't even a big thing. This is, like, a little tournament. Like, this is a fucking thing. So, I think in some ways... The older culture, when you get to a point where they weren't around when it, like, pre-Pong, you know what I mean? If it just wasn't a fucking thing, if they remember, like, TVs, then video games are, like, a whole nother language. But people who grew up around NES and shit like that, I don't really think there is that taboo. Like, I do feel like it got lifted pretty quickly. So, I mean, video games are fun, dude. People were into that shit. Like,
The
look at
fact that it
arcades
wasn't
and-
fun, but I'm saying the fact that it wasn't fun off the bat made it a little better for us, I think. Not to get sucked into those is what I'm trying to say.
I think, Jason, are you One-Eye's dad?
No, I'm just. I mean, it's just. Here's the thing. It drives me crazy because now that they're as popular, it's almost become acceptable that you can get off of school at 3:00 and sit your kid down and let him play some of these games that never end, and they sit down and play them until 10:00 at night until they go to bed, and that's all they do.
The fuck do you think I did when I was growing up?
We didn't.
Yeah,
I mean, no,
what do you think
I
all
sure.
of us
Yeah.
did?
No,
That's
I'm
what
sure.
I
I
did.
did.
You. That's crazy.
And I have look. I have a pretty good thing going on here. At least I like to think so, and that's all that matters to me.
No,
I
wait,
remember
no,
one
Derek, you
summer
can't say
locking
that. You
myself
got to
in my
turn your
room
camera.
for 2 weeks playing Breath of Fire 4 and coming down for food and piss breaks, and my parents didn't bother me.
Lucky.
No, Derek,
Jason,
when you say that though, you
I
turn the
own-
camera,
I
Derek.
own
Derek, turn the
an
camera.
Acura. I've made it.
See now when Derek says it right here, I'm living the high life. Look at me, he's got a nice dining room table back there, whatever. He's a very
I'm
successful
not
man.
living the high life, but I'm
You have
not
very
doing
nice
really-
curtains. I must say.
I have a wife. She picks things that are very nice.
Yeah,
this is what I pick.
If RPGs taught me anything, the success to having a nice house is to have a wife. So I got that off the check mark real quick.
Well, here's another question too. Speaking of like social acceptance and whether or not it's awkward, things like that. I'm going to go ahead and ask the panel. In my experience, when I was first getting into video games, right, the games that I found people generally talked about and were on like the same page with were RPGs. Like, I didn't really hear and of course this could also just be me being like a PS1 N64 generation kid, but like I heard way more people talking about like Final Fantasy and oh my god, PS2's coming out and they're gonna have this Kingdom Hearts game and shit like that than fucking Mario and Crash Bandicoot and shit, you know what I mean? Like I had longer conversations about, oh my god, Red 13, oh, it's so crazy, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't anything like that. Like, I found that I made more meaningful connections through RPGs due to the fact that, like, there was more to connect over, there was more depth than I ever did with traditional games.
That wasn't my experience.
They blew
I
up
I
right
didn't
then.
talk to people at school about games, but
Like, I did, but it was usually about casual stuff.
Look,
I mean, not casual, like Metal Gear Solid.
Reached, like the NES era, everyone, it didn't matter who you were, you all had Nintendo, you all played them. Middle school and high school, girls were not playing games anymore. I don't know why, I'm not going to get into this whole social shit, but I was pretty much on my own.
What age? Well, I'm sorry, I missed it. I fell asleep.
Middle school,
Middle school.
Middle school?
Yeah.
What age was that?
Middle school, they start dropping out. Middle school is 12 to...
Isn't that the
like
age?
12 to 14 region.
Isn't that the age, though?
Age for what?
Come on. Isn't that the
Age
age?
The age of reason.
Oh, are you talking about nutting in your pants watching Bordello Blood again, Jason? Is that the age you're
we're
talking
not,
about?
we could have a little bit of proper here.
No, Jason.
All right.
That was the
My
age
is
that boys
10,
awakened.
But I don't think that's really...
No, I thought
Wait,
women
what age
awakened at
are we
that
talking
age.
about?
No. They sometimes, well, like you're talking about puberty, which for
Yeah, there's
girls
10.
happens like at 8, as young as like
Yeah.
8.
8?
even. Like,
Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
Alex, did you become a woman at 8? Is that what we're saying
I
here?
became a woman at 10.
Whoa!
Back to
Howdy
the question.
doody time,
when
right
he was
there.
presented, back to the
Wait.
question.
Congrats.
All right,
When
when
she's-
About this kind of woman?
That's
That was 16.
No, we don't want to know. That's
Yeah.
too much. Don't do that. No. I
okay,
didn't need to
why?
know that.
Don.
Yes.
Okay. So here's
That's
what it was.
average.
You were younger than us by a little bit, at least for me. And I think you were at the age where you guys were more in the single player experiences. You hadn't quite gotten as competitive yet, because also the PS1 exploded RPGs. You had Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, Tactics,
which could be a factor
Xenogears,
there.
Symphony of the Night. When with me, it was more Smash Bros, more competitive, like fighting games that we were talking about. We still loved the RPGs, but it wasn't necessarily the thing that we were all bonding over. We were bonding over more of kind of the wrestling games, kind of the shit like that.
WWE or
Yeah,
WWF at the
oh, yeah.
time. WCW.
Freaking No
NWO.
Mercy! Oh my God, those games were I still play that shit.
GoldenEye.
Golden. That too, like the beginning of the
I have a
true
lot of good
home
sleepover
console
memories of GoldenEye.
first-person shooter with the 4 players. So
Yeah, like my constituents at the time weren't really keen on reading a whole lot, so I mean, that was the thing. That was a hurdle. I overcame it. Some people didn't, Jason. But but there are other games that we were able to play that we got along with. But the big social aspect was playing big multiplayer games together. Like when Smash came out, that was amazing. When Mario Party came out, that was also amazing for other people. I didn't like it, but true story. But
it wasn't good. It wasn't great.
But yeah, I mean, there were other bonding things, but I never had just like a serious discussion. But when I can't recall specific conversations anymore from back in middle school, high school. But I do believe that when I would agree with somebody on an RPG, that was something that was like, yeah, we're on some sort of secret here, like it was a special bond, but like I said, not so special that I could remember it now.
Okay, so I guess the response is that it's pretty much that I was a PS1 generation kid, and that's just what the PS1 was known
it
for.
was a different time.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. That seems like a fair argument. I also noticed in chat here that somebody brought up that action games sort of transition into RPGs with a lot of kids, things like Legend of Zelda, and things like that. So thinking of Legend of Zelda, this is going to move forward a little bit. Is anybody here familiar with the Darksider series?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Oh, okay, so would
Zelda
you
with demons.
consider what would you consider that? Because it does have
Action
RPG elements.
adventure.
That's a
Action
Zelda
adventure.
clone.
It is a Zelda clone, but it does actually have like numbers in stats and things like that.
Oh.
Like
Darksiders? That's a God of War clone.
Dude,
I
it's
would,
Zelda.
I
You
would
can go
say
up to the
it's
little
Zelda.
chest and and open your thing
That
and
is,
the
that's
And admittedly,
God of
I'm
War.
not-
out
no.
it spins and it's
I'm pretty
that's
much making
just
a trick
Zelda.
question.
Darksiders is God of War. You gotta be kidding me. It is
Okay,
not
so
Zelda.
we would just classify that as just straight action adventure then.
Oh, if anything, just action. Like,
No, it's
Just
an action adventure game. You run around and find items to get past barriers to go to other parts of the level. It's an exploration
it
action
really
adventure
is.
game.
but now you're just
It's-
explaining Metroidvania. Yeah, action adventure, fine, but it's not
Is
an
it
RPG.
Metroidvania an action adventure thing now? Or was? It's action,
Yeah,
it's
it is.
adventure.
Yeah.
It's just side-scrolling. It's side-scrolling Zelda, I guess.
Oh, I love Zelda too.
Yeah, no, those games are all amazing. I think we can all unanimously agree that that's probably what got us into games with exploration and things like that, you know what I mean? Though definitely Super Metroid. Super Metroid, as far as Super Nintendo is concerned, is a game that had an extremely large impact on me. So I'm willing to yield there. But back to the whole generation thing in RPGs, is there any generation you feel is just straight up known for that? Because I hear a lot of people say that the PS1 is sort of the
PS1.
RPG generation.
PS1, Super Nintendo,
PS1.
both of which, but PS1's where it really
No,
took
PS1
its
is where it
mainstream.
blew up. I mean,
Exactly.
there's-
Final Fantasy VII really launched it.
Super Nintendo had some good games.
In the
and
West.
more
In the
so
West.
in
Yeah, in the
Japan.
West.
Yeah. Oh, in Japan, it blew up like
In
immediately.
Japan,
Oh, yeah.
Like it's just been
Dragon
going.
Warrior.
Dragon Warrior, and it just kept going. It blew up with like
1987.
Wizardry. Actually, they got their hands on Wizardry, and then all like lost their shit, and that's
Wizardry.
That's a WRPG
I
for
broke
you,
it.
Jason.
I broke it. No, but
Okay, no.
Oh man. Go ahead.
It was
Don.
that and oh yeah, go.
Okay, so I guess the real question, what I wanted to get into this, and this is probably a decent segue now that it got brought up. In everybody's opinion, which is a better genre overall, J or
Oh,
W
dear.
RPGs? Let's go ahead and
Okay.
open up that can of worms. Let's just take off the gloves and get fist fighting.
I'd like to preface this by just first saying that the major difference between these two, besides their geography, is that people play them for different reasons, and because of that, the type of people, or the people who play them, will be drawn to them. I'm sorry. Gotta start
both.
that-
I've
start
been
that.
drinking. I've been
They're-
drinking a little
They play
bit.
for different reasons. Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, I was
They
gonna
play for
say,
different reasons.
Derek
and
is red
because of
as
that,
shit,
some people
man.
gravitate toward one toward the other. Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
That's
I
okay.
love Baldur's Gate, and I love, I don't know, Breath of Fire. I love them both. It's not, I can't choose.
I really gravitated toward JRPGs. I still like a few Western RPGs, particularly those by Bethesda. But I also haven't had an abundant exposure to Western RPGs, and that's something that I need to
You know what? I started
fix.
off before I ever touched a controller RPG. When I was like, I grew up from 6 onwards. My family would play tabletop RPGs. Like that was something that we did as like a pastime in our house.
That's
like
hard.
we didn't have money to go on vacation, so we'd get a 3-day weekend. We'd play a game around the table. So from there, we got a Nintendo. I started playing JRPGs because that's what was available. But there were also things like Ultima, Sword and Serpents. There was Wizardry. I didn't know the difference. I knew them as RPGs. I didn't think that there was a fundamental difference between the two genres. I was playing both of them. And then I didn't even know games came from Japan. Like I was completely in the dark.
Yeah.
And from there, I went to Sega Genesis, and then after that, we went to PC. So I was, I didn't get back into kind of consoles until I went from PC to PlayStation and just kind of did this the whole time. So I had equal exposure to both sides.
Mm-hmm. Early on in the RPG video game thing. Western JRPGs were inspired by Western RPGs, so the differences between them were definitely, less pronounced. But as they've, evolved separately into, people valued some things more so in Japan than they did here in the West. The Western RPGs usually they took on a different direction where you would, build stats more directly, manipulate stats.
Also aesthetically, as before it was like older games, there wasn't like a big difference between how they looked. You couldn't replicate anime on an NES. You could do it in the manual of the box, but pixels were pixels. It wasn't until the basically PlayStation era that finally it's like, oh, well, we can make these things look a certain way.
Yeah.
Also, well, screw all this damn bipartisan BS. We need to pick a side. And we're going with freaking JRPGs, baby. Specifically, tactical RPGs, because that's where the real skill lies in. Bam!
You like Banner Saga.
Enough of this freaking bipartisan, they're both great. No! Have an opinion.
Exactly.
Make Multitapped podcast great again.
Whoa.
Hashtag
I think we're getting too serious, guys. I think we need to, just bring it down one bit. And on that note, I just want to say, just for Mr. Lucius over there, do you all have problems? Why don't we take a break from this particular fight over here with the nerds? Do you have problems in the morning starting your car? Are you tired of having to roll down your windows or have automatic locks or having a starting engine on your key? Well, you know what? You can change that all today by driving in an Acura. Yes, everyone can be approved for an Acura today. You can drive in the life of luxury that you only dreamed of or played in doing an RPG. And if you're interested in that, go see Mr. Lucius T. He will hook you up across the nation with an Acura, and he will send you to that dealership. So think about it.
Look, your dealership owes us like advertising money. You realize that, right?
You sound like a man who has himself a great future ahead of you.
I do have a great future ahead of me. Mr. Lucius T.
Exactly. Life-size, non-role-playing, VR-induced.
Exactly. I mean, he's a terrific salesman. He even sold my cat one. He had problems with his credit because he got locked up a couple months ago from biting my neighbor. But now he's driving an Acura, and he is the coolest cat on the block.
We don't have to skin many cats, just one, to get you the credit you need and the Acura you deserve. Why don't you come on down today?
Jesus Christ. Well, all fucking ad placement aside for the luxurious Acura, I'll go ahead and take the stance against fucking Lucius here, and I'll go ahead and say, maybe harking on what Derek was saying, I guess I kind of like Western RPGs more. I think it might just be sort of a contextual thing. Like, don't get me wrong, I really do like JRPGs. The Final Fantasy series is great. Like I said, Chrono Trigger is probably my single favorite RPG. Earthbound's amazing. I like those styles of games. But I tend to find myself having a much harder time getting into them as opposed to, say, something like an Elder Scrolls game or like any of the Fallouts, even the first couple ones. I'm into that isometric shit.
You're also pretty clearly a PC gamer, and I don't think that necessarily will sway you one way or the other, but it's definitely true that Western RPGs have a much larger prevalence on the PC because the PC PC games in Japan are actually stigmatized to an extent because it's usually for waifu sexing, but Japanese RPGs are consoleized, are most generally going to be released on consoles, which is also part of the reason they evolved in such a direction. So I guess I haven't really answered yet. I just kind of got pedantic there for a little bit.
You're going to say JRPG. You're just trying to cover your ass.
Yeah, I was going to say JRPG. Definitely, like of course, I've reviewed one RPG. I've reviewed one Western RPG.
That makes more sense.
Well, two Western RPGs, I guess, if you want to count Dark Souls, but I kind of don't. But yeah, Western RPGs definitely drew me in, and I really enjoy Westerns still, but Japanese RPGs are my jam.
See,
and Western RPGs are my peanut butter. You have to have both.
Yeah,
I feel like when I talk to people generally, I bet if we were to ask fucking salty ass Jason Lewis
You have your jam only
himself,
sandwich. That's just breakfast toast.
Hey, I'm having jam on biscuits, okay? I'm having
No,
biscuits.
I'll tell you one thing. I'm
The
a lot
best
more
part is
protective.
steak.
Gross.
I'm a lot more protective of what I consider a JRPG than a WRPG. Like, I think a JRPG, like with Final Fantasy VII Remake, I'm very upset that they made it action-based.
Yeah.
I'm very upset about that. And I know that's not the popular opinion because it's not out yet. But that just, I feel that's why Final Fantasy hasn't been as good in years, is because they betrayed what made Final Fantasy Final Fantasy. That's why Dragon Warrior, Dragon Quest is still popular, and Final Fantasy has been trying to refine itself for what, 10 years now? Whenever 12 changed it? I think it was like, what, 2002?
I think 11 kind of changed it a bit, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, the MMO.
You know, that MMO.
Yeah, the MMO, yeah. I don't really count
I
the
definitely
MMOs because they're not, they're MMOs. They're not really, consoleized versions of the series kind of thing,
Well, the other thing too is I would just like to say the best Final Fantasy in years was Bravely Default. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it.
Oh, yeah.
You fucking quote me on it too.
That's
And
an
it,
excellent game.
You played Lost Odyssey? I mean, not to say that they're
That's
contenders.
been a while.
but-
That's been like a decade since Lost Odyssey came out. So
God, I feel old.
yeah,
it's funny because when I think of, because once again, I do like Western RPGs more than JRPGs. Not to say I don't like JRPGs or anything like that, but I feel like, and this is what I was going to say a second ago too, is like if you were to ask Jason Lewis or anybody on the street, like, what is an RPG? I feel like 90% of the people are going to just say, like, they're going to describe a JRPG, right?
No,
They're gonna be like,
some of them
what,
are
that
going to say.
Pokemon
I
thing?
think they're going to say
No,
Skyrim.
no. No, you're all wrong. 90% of the people that you walk up to on the street and you ask them what's an RPG, they're going to say Rocket Patrol Grenade. True story.
Yeah, that is true.
So that's what cancer
Yeah, that's
sounds
true in
like.
Florida.
No, I know. Lesson learned.
Yeah.
But I think the
Yeah.
WRPG kind of had its renaissance by, co-opting other things like open worlds and sandbox games and really taking that to make its kind of world breathe in that space. Like, especially Elder Scrolls did that. And all these new first-person shooter type RPGs we're talking about, like Borderlands and The Division and Destiny.
Well,
and
Western
whatnot.
RPGs have always been kind of about the open world.
Yeah,
It goes far back
that's why
as
but now
Ultima,
that we've
was the
had
whole
the
point.
3D capabilities, it's really made it come into its own. Whereas the JRPG worked very well for a 2D plane. And,
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying. As the games get more realistic and the technology gets better, it's just everything's becoming one homogenous genre.
Yeah.
Everything's open world sandbox.
Yeah.
What's the final?
A lot of
end
things
game,
have
though?
RPG elements.
What's that, Jason?
What's the end game?
Oh, jeez. For you to nut.
What do you mean? What do you mean endgame?
I did that earlier. That's not that was a past.
I think
game, so-
he's asking what is the final goal, like what is the pinnacle of RPG?
Yeah, if you're saying
that kind of-
RPG is evolving, which every game type is evolving.
The
It
pinnacle?
depends on
We're going to
what-
have
it's
like
a-
VR
yeah.
games where you just put on the things and you can run around in your little world and do whatever you want. I think that's probably...
But would you want to do
I
that?
think you're talking
with-
about like the squid from Strange Days, right?
Well, I mean,
Anybody else watch the movie? That's a good movie.
I don't know. I mean, I'm asking. I'm not trying to make a joke. I mean, but I'm serious. I mean, at what point do you all feel it should stop?
I don't feel it should stop.
Yeah,
I
well,
think
it's never
developers
stopped.
should just
You're the
make
only one in the
Never
group.
amazing games the way they want to make them. I don't think it should ever stop.
You know, there's
I
no
think that's
there is
irresponsible.
no end game. There is no end game in the way that you describe it. I feel like RPGs and other video games are just going to continue to evolve in the direction that the primary players of said games want them to evolve. That's going to be driven by the market, not by some book that was written 17,000 years ago, as it was foretold they would exchange blows turn for turn. It's not like that. It's just this is what the people want, and this is what the people this is what we want to give them, and
Yeah, but that's
yeah.
dangerous thinking, though, too, on a grand scale. Let's be fair.
Okay, so this is operating
Dangerous?
through the logic
It
that
is
you think
dangerous.
RPGs destroy society, right?
No.
That's not
I'm not
dangerous.
saying that. I'm
Nah,
saying
don't bring that back. What are you doing?
no. I'm being fair. I know. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm being fair. What we want is not necessarily what the public wants. Is not necessarily the direction it needs to go. That you can't make that statement. It's the same thing with what you just said. I mean,
I said what the developers want to make. I think it should be totally, you want to make a game, you make the game you fucking want to make. I don't give a shit what the public wants.
Why not?
You know?
And they want to
And
make
people-
a game that will sell.
Yeah, and that's what they say. That's why we have this homogenized group of genres with no game standing out
Of
anymore.
AAA games. But you go back to people like you and me who are just like, you know what, I want to make a fucking game, and the tools are now available to do that. Those are the games that are interesting. And those are
that's
the
art.
games. Exactly. That is art.
But I lose my precious franchises that way.
Well, fuck
And I
your
want
franchises.
I want
No, and
new
you know what
Mega
happens?
Mans.
Your
I want
franchises
new.
don't
I was gonna say,
go
how's
away.
that Final Fantasy
I want
going
new
for
The
you?
Final
indie
Fantasy.
games get big and they become their own franchises. You don't think they'll
Yes,
be
but it's not the
Undertale
same.
3,
That's
4,
not the same. I
5?
want this homogenized to go away. Get back to genres.
But that is, you want.
Make video games great again. Build a wall.
Wow. You want a different kind of homogenization. Well, I've had too much booze. You just want them all to be turn-based and all look like Final Fantasy VI.
No, I don't want that.
Still-
I want genres to be genres and be great again.
They are.
You can't have genres.
all-
Genres
all-
are
yes.
dead. Genres
Okay,
are dead.
Genres-
They're not.
build
They're
walls
no,
between the
they're not. They're
genres.
going to come back.
No, innovation
come-
squashes genres. That's been proven with everything. Guaranteed, everything.
supposedly mobile, but with mobile
I mean,
games coming
it's not-
around, that's going to be like. You think
Oh
microtransactions
god,
are?
I don't
anything-
want to get into casual gaming, please. No mobile games. I don't want to touch it.
Yeah.
But an interesting point, talking about old game tropes and like modern games and things like that. Look at Undertale. You know what I mean? Like holy shit, that's the only game people have been talking about for the past fucking year. You know what I mean? And that thing's just an Earthbound clone.
Yeah.
Like straight up, not even a little bit. So I mean, you could argue.
Look
that-
how well it did. Look how well Stardew Valley's done.
Which Earthbound, let's be honest, was a Dragon Quest clone.
Yeah, it was just a modern-day Dragon Quest clone.
Like,
They was like, let's give it a funny sense of humor.
like seriously, just bring it back to basics. People are here. We want to play turn-based games. I
And
know.
that's
I hear it
what
every
we're
day.
making. That might be not what Square's making. Well, unless it's Dragon Quest. As long as Dragon Quest keeps selling, we're a little safe. But, that's not what other people are making. But people like us, we're like, okay, that's what I want to make. Let me make that thing. And somebody in the chat was bitching about RPG Maker. And yes, 90% of RPG Maker is crap because, let's face it, 90% of people don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're not artists. They're not writers. But there's that 10% of people who either are very talented or they work hard enough to get talented. They've put out shitty games and they're getting better.
I would go so far. I would go further and say that there's probably 20% that have those skills, but then there's only like 1% of those people who have the time to do anything with it.
And the motivation.
Yeah,
Because
That's
your
true,
talent and skills mean nothing if you're not going to get up your ass and make it. Just like a YouTube channel or any other creative endeavor.
But wouldn't you want to see Square Enix make another Secret of Mana that's good, or another Terranigma, or another
Yes.
Chrono Trigger? And
I
these are all
would
games-
literally, they
like-
could be printing money if they made any of these things. And even with
I
Final
would like them
Fantasy
just to
VII
go back
Remake,
and
they managed
localize
to fuck
all
that up.
of the old PlayStation games, but it's not fucking going to happen.
Well, on the same note, you can't make everybody happy either. Like, one of my favorite PS1 RPGs that nobody fucking talks about is Chrono Cross. And a lot of people fucking
absolutely.
hate it. A lot of
I
people
really-
straight up hated that game
I
because they're
fucking
like,
hate
this
that
isn't
game.
this isn't fucking Chrono Trigger. What the fuck is this? You got chocolate
No.
and peanut butter.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
Like,
gonna say,
But I
there's
would
no-
use
it's
I
not
would
Chrono
use the
Trigger 2.
Earthbound analogy there too, though. No one liked Earthbound when it came out. Now everyone loves it. Same thing with Chrono
Yeah,
Cross.
Earthbound
People
is very
really like
negative.
it now.
But I liked it
Except
back when I
Alex.
played it as a
Or-
I
fucking
still hate
kid.
Chrono Cross, but
Because the combat system's intuitive. It's got a really long character list. There's a ton of shit to
But you
do.
got to realize what they did though is they took a beloved franchise and they changed it when people didn't want it changed. They didn't make a sequel. They made a different game. That's
I
why it
would
got
be
shot
happy
on.
with Chrono Cross if Square went back and just retranslated it. Get rid of all those fucking accents. Get rid of Sloppy Dog and Jackie Gleason. I don't want those characters in my game. The translation ruined it. That's why I hate it.
Cha 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 cha.
It was like
I
you've
get-
got 106 characters to choose from, or however many you had. It's like I don't want to play any of these assholes.
They're all terrible. Get them the fuck out of here.
That's why I always ended up, in the end, I always ended up playing with the characters that were pretty much the most basic characters, like obviously Chrono, obviously probably not even Harley Kid, and then Glenn. I mean, those are Those are the only three you need,
yeah,
really.
there's Surge. I hated Kid because she, again, to the moon. Everything was to the fucking moon. It's like, shut the
Oh,
fuck
when you're
up.
Australian, you have to
Make
say
her kiss
some
the
stupid
moons.
shit.
Like I said,
Put some
she was
shrimp on the
Jackie
barbie.
Gleason. It's like, no, I don't want that. Get the honeymooners out of my game.
I thought
like
she
the
was
honeymooners?
Australian.
We're gonna go on an adventure, you hear? Yeah, no, for sure.
Jesus.
Jason, what was it like watching the honeymooners?
It was excellent, man. Things were simpler back then, okay, man? I'm
He
just
can
telling you.
identify. That was
I
him.
can't
Did you
fucking
see that
identify.
episode where he actually punched her?
The good old days. The good old days back before women could vote.
Yeah.
No. Wow.
Okay, just think, if we were
No,
back in
no.
those days, Alex wouldn't have
Speaking
anything
of
to say
just-
about RPGs.
I'll participate in going a little off topic, but speaking of incredibly dated, horrific-looking things, has anybody read any Handicap comics recently? Because I have, and those comics are literally just about a dude getting drunk and fist fighting his wife. That is literally all that comic's about, every single fucking strip. But that man knows how to sleep on a couch. I guess the point I'm trying to make here is RPGs, to digress, it seems like maybe even more than most genres, there's a really big nostalgia factor there. It seems like what people are into is sort of what they were exposed to when they first got into it. I don't know if that's mainly...
That's very accurate. People like...
Think about how much
something,
time you
like,
sink into
They don't
them,
want
too.
to experience something new. They just want to be reassured that their taste is good, you know?
I guess
Well,
it's just
Nintendo's
sort
great.
of a weird thing because people argue about it so much. Like Final Fantasy VII, we didn't even touch on it. But like, there is a very polarizing game. And by polarizing, I mean there's the 90% of people who are like, it's the best RPG! And then there's the 10% of people who played other RPGs on the PS1. But
Or any other system. Maybe they've touched a Sega once in their life.
why do you think people get so charged about it? Like, because I mean, I never hear people
It's
fucking
like
fight
choosing a
about
sports team or a political side. You know, for some reason, it's ingrained our society that we need to have like binary passions. I
think
don't know
it's
why that
because
is.
Because
RPGs
Final
tend to have
Fantasy
a very
VII was that
emotional
game
element.
that defined the whole genre for a lot of people.
It was
then
just
there's
it didn't define the genre. It was just the first one they played.
No, but
Here,
I
what were
said
you
for
saying?
a lot of people. You're not one of
Yeah.
them.
You're not.
You're dead,
Alex
man.
is
That's
getting
why
fucking
people get
wound up,
pissed.
man.
Final
No,
Fantasy
it ain't
VII
a
was
fucking
my
shit.
first RPG. That was the first game that got me into it. But Final Fantasy Tactics, I enjoyed a lot more. But Final
Yeah.
Fantasy VII, while I'm not saying it's the greatest thing ever, it was a great game. I definitely enjoyed it, but I'm gonna defend it to be itself. I don't like the remake, but I have nothing wrong with like, oh, that's why I love
Have
experiencing
you
all
played
this.
the? Have you tried the NES remake?
I've heard of it. I want it. Oh my god, I want it so bad.
I found
almost bought
cartridges
in
of it
Portland.
for $100, but I didn't have cash for it.
I
It
think
seems
the
like a
cheapest
really
I've
interesting-
seen is 50. If you
Oh,
want to
no
buy
way.
a card,
I would buy it for
think cheapest
50.
is 50.
Yeah, it would be a fun like $30-$40 investment.
Is
it would
that
be, it would be
remake
cool to have
a
something.
Chinese bootleg, or is that like a modern?
No, it's
project?
scaled down. Somebody remade Final Fantasy VII for the
Yeah.
NES.
Well,
I mean-
no. Wait, it was a Chinese bootleg. The Chinese were like here, and it was shitty. Like it was loosely Final Fantasy VII. And someone else said that's a really great idea. So he hacked the Chinese bootleg, and a team got together and they made new graphics and new areas. And there's actually two versions of Final Fantasy VII NES.
Oh.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
there's two of them.
Because that's what I thought I had heard, was that it was, a bootleg. But now that you've told me that a team's actually done something with it, a team with talent has actually done something with
Yes.
it, I'll have to check it out sometime.
I mean, if I've got the ROM, if anybody wants to just look at it or play it that
No,
way,
I
I don't
must
know.
have
I
a
know
cartridge.
Luke is very passionate about his cartridges. I don't know how much of a stickler the rest of you were.
Make gaming great again. I'll play it ROM. I don't give a fuck.
Okay.
We shall see.
I guess at the end of all this, though, looking at the time and all that, because we have a few minutes left, the big question here is: have we, in any way, shape, or form, swayed Jason Lewis at all? Because I don't think so. I'm pretty sure he still hates RPGs.
I hate RPGs because they're dangerous to the future. That's my concern. I don't know why you laugh. It's not.
That's a
I'm not
very
really. I'm not
interesting
really
opinion,
being. I'm not
sir.
really being
Jason,
funny.
that's
I'm
just the most ridiculous opinion. Yeah.
No, because when you sit there, I'm telling you, man. I'm just. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll be salty.
No,
you know what I
say
mean?
your point, Jason. We want to hear it. I'm just saying, the way that you proposed it so far, you sound like the people who are like, Doom causes school shootings.
Yeah, do you have
Yeah.
on? You need
Hey,
some
hey,
tinfoil.
maybe I shouldn't mention this, but I believe that Columbine was also blamed partially on Final Fantasy VII.
It was.
It was.
It was at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had some shitty like Fox News video thing of the kids, like some kid playing Final Fantasy VII, and at the time
They
Yeah,
use
that's-
giant
that-
swords
that's
to kill
ridiculous.
things.
Oh my
yeah,
god!
it bred violence.
Here's all I'm
Oh
gonna
my
say,
God.
and then I'll get off
It's
of it. You guys
obviously some
can.
Final Fantasy
guys can
shit,
laugh at
right?
It's like, wow, these kids happen to have played the best-selling game on PlayStation, and then went out and killed people.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That whole bit is
In the
ridiculous.
game, they
But-
killed a woman. Clearly, they had to go kill more.
That's a pretty good voice right there. No, but
Yes.
I mean, I'm just saying this, and it sounds a broad
Who
thing.
is this Jason Lewis? He looks very
Jesus.
sexy with this red headband.
Jesus
I
Christ.
like.
The thank you,
Oh
Akura.
my god.
No, I mean, at what point? Yeah, I think you guys have the most dangerous genre of all when it comes to the future. That's all I'm just saying, because what the technology catches up to what you all want to do, I think it has to be tamed at some point. They have to stop. We have to be responsible and stop what video games can accomplish with the technology, even with first-person shooters. I think at some point, luckily I don't think we'll ever get there because most people enjoy the way it's set up now. But you guys trying to get that goal of actual being immersed in play, that's where it becomes a problem. I mean, if
Jason
what you're
sounds
talking
like-
about,
What?
no, what I'm talking
Jason
about
sounds
is
like those crazy Christian moms from the 80s who are like, magician for the NES is going to ruin our generation.
no, I'm just
It's
saying
the Monster Energy drink lady all
let's
over
ima-
again.
I'm saying let's imagine it,
Bottoms
'cause
up and the devil laughs.
It can happen in our lifetimes to where we're not talking
Jason,
about
not
virtual
every
reality.
one of us is trying to be in an RPG server on WoW where we're pretending to be who we're playing as. I feel like that's what you're trying to say is like, I want to be Zalgoth. I want to put on my VR unit and roam the plains of Astriel. And then imagine that there's some mead in the corner. Like, no, it's a game. How's it any different than a freaking sports game where I'm playing a quarterback on the Niners and I go through a whole season and I do nothing but play that for 5 years because I want to win the Super Bowl 5 years in a row.
Yeah, but
Like,
when,
I don't
when it can tap into your senses, that's where it begins a little different. That's what I'm talking. RPGs are built
Okay,
for
but
that
No,
game
you're
time.
not talking about RPGs, you're talking about VR technology.
you're-
No, that's what you're talking. What's your goal of
That's what
RPGs
you're
is to
talking
have
about.
a good story and to
I
be
don't
able
have
to
an
be
agenda,
transferred into
sir.
something else. Oh,
I don't
I
have
like
an
it.
agenda.
Can
I
I
just
hear
want
from
people
the
to make a
senator
game.
from Wisconsin or Florida again? I don't have an agenda, sir. Don't label
Okay.
me, motherfucker.
Jason's whole fucking point is that real life is going to turn into Sword Art Online. People are going to like VR
It's gonna be
MMO, and it's just game
all
over.
over.
No, we're not even
Dude,
talking about
Dude,
VR.
nobody
We're
would
not
leave
even-
Sword Art Online.
We're not even
and
talking
and
about
it would be
VR.
completely by choice.
No, really, we're not going into VR. You're talking about the next stage. What the next stage past what that is where RPGs will end up, and that's where it becomes a problem to me. End of point. Because when you can plug your actual senses, your brain in your actual, when you're looking around, so you're not having a VR headset, you can actually feel and be in these scenarios. That's where RPG will end up. And I'm saying I don't believe that there should be constraints on it before it gets to that point. Because once you can plug
Dude,
yourself into an
That's
actual
got
world where it changes
nothing to do
perspective,
with RPGs.
No,
it does.
really does.
Because that's what you guys are trying to get
No,
to.
no.
Yeah.
Here, and I'll tell you why.
That's
Because
what
as
you're
soon
moving
as
towards.
anybody
I just want
is
my
plugged
turn-based Dragon
into,
Warrior clones.
as soon as anybody is plugged into the Matrix and a programmer has access to press the endorphins button on your brain, nobody's fucking leaving that ever, because that's exactly like how heroin works. You take some heroin and it releases endorphins, you're fucking hooked forever. And as soon as a programmer of any type of game has access to pressing that little button at will, then nobody's fucking leaving
You
the
know,
Matrix,
you bring up a good point. It's not
regardless
RPGs.
of
It's not RPGs that are scaring Jason. It's the erotic games with the HR, with the
Oh
VR.
yeah. Oh yeah.
That's where people are going to leave.
No.
I am scared but oddly aroused.
I think
Jason,
the argument is, since RPGs inherently are more immersive, and when you're playing an RPG, it's to escape a world and inhabit a character. That's why they're more dangerous than, say, action games. And I don't think I necessarily agree, because I think it's more a danger of the technology, not the genre.
Yeah, Jason, you realize when
And
I
that just
play
that
RPGs
just makes you
that
a
are turn-based,
technophobe.
I just
Like,
sit around
really.
and drink and grind and don't
Well, it's
even
not the same thing
now
about
listen
the
to a
television,
podcast.
the radio. and the wireless telegraph.
But that's what you do. That's what I'm saying. We can't be bound by what we would do.
But you're saying that you're saying that we are in favor of this, and all I've done is shit all over.
No, I never said you guys are in favor of that.
I'm playing freaking 90s RPGs here, and you're saying you want to go and be this way.
No, but there is something.
You're like labeling us because we're fans of old RPGs.
No, there's nothing wrong with
Personally, my eyesight prevents me from even playing VR shit. I get migraines and throw up everywhere. Yeah, this isn't where I want to go.
You have to be plugged into the Matrix for it to work.
Again, I'm not saying... I say it with you because you all are in this podcast. I'm saying the genre... where these players want to take it, not you all. You all are very grounded.
I feel like you're in a different podcast, man.
I'm not. I'm telling you
one thing, and then you just keep sprouting out other stuff.
No, he's got a fair point. Like, it's just in his head, he's just wrong. His point isn't like it doesn't make sense. It makes sense. He's just wrong.
No, it's just like it's the man in the corner bringing up the point that no one asked for. It's like, no, you.
His point is that everyone who plays a role-playing game plays it specifically to role-play. And I don't think that's the case because a lot of people play it for the experience or the story or the journey or the setting, not to
completionism,
fill the role of a character.
Jason would have been completely scared by my drunken emperor in Oblivion that just ran around robbing houses and drinking beer.
It started.
I wouldn't have understood that character at all.
That's what I'm trying to make the point that it started. The scale is here, left and right. Okay, it started on the right side where it was people wanting to have a good story and having a good time. The ruler is slowly moving to the left. That's my concern. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's you all. I'm not saying it's anyone our age range. But the ruler is slowly moving to the left. That's what I'm saying. And as we get closer to the left, that's the problem that I have. That's my concern.
We're not disagreeing with you. We're just saying that it's not indicative of RPGs.
Exactly.
But RPG is one of the catalysts.
Moving to the left.
Yes.
No, screw that. If it's moving to the left, it's moving to the left on all genres, and you wouldn't be unaffected.
I wouldn't be unaffected? What do you mean?
In fact, I think VR is most heavily used right now by survival horror games, not RPGs. And little roller coaster simulators and let me go and check out.
VR is a joke right now. VR
tourism demo.
Hopefully the technology
ASMR
dies.
Videos.
I really hope the VR dies. It should be a novelty, but it should die. The quicker we can dodge VR, the better off we're gonna get. That's all I'm saying.
Hello, everyone.
Well, at least we can all agree there.
For the next half hour.
Yeah, VR is a gimmick. Yourself. It's going nowhere.
Yeah, down with VR, up with JRPG.
Slight scratching noise.
Okay. Why are you scratching? What are you doing?
Oh, she looks.
It's turning into an ASMR.
Yeah.
Can you rub your coif on the microphone, Derek?
I don't know. He's got a pop screen. I don't think he could touch. But I guess sort of the synopsis is, generally speaking, people like Jay more than Western, and that Jason hates RPGs and the future of technology.
Yes.
Right? So that's the synopsis.
Yes. And if anyone in the podcast agrees with me, I will be available for discussions later to keep the children of America safe from the futuristic hell that we live in.
Contact Jason through smoke rings.
Yeah, smoke
but
rings.
I would say that we are in the minority, though. Most of the RPGs are leaning towards the other way. They're going towards that homogenized slush of crap that has no defining things.
By the time Jason's technology that he's afraid of happens, RPGs won't even be a defined genre anymore.
No.
Well, it's already been co-opted by every other genre.
No, exactly. We're talking about something. It won't even be.
Dinosaurs.
It's something we don't even know because it hasn't been thought of yet, or given an actual a basis of when it's going to be built off of. But what I'm saying is, RPG will have had a hand in it. And when they talk about the history of it, then, you guys we may be lucky enough to be on our last breaths to see it come to fulfillment. But trust me, it will happen.
We are taking down your genres, all of your genres, and we're going to be riding a dragon holding a giant flaming sword while we do it.
I believe what Daria's saying here is that all your genre belong to us.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, I think that'll probably do it there. That was a pretty salty enough ending for it to feel like a multi-tap podcast with Jason's fear of the future. So this is the point where we'll go ahead and sign off and have everybody do their plugs and where they can get reached and everything like that. Why don't we go ahead and start with you, Derek?
All right. Well, I am Super Derek. I've got a channel where I review RPGs over at Super Derek RPGs.
Good man. And then Daria?
I am Daria from Daria Plays. My channel, you can find it at youtube.com/Daria Plays TOO.
I like that old
And
school
then
call out. It was
Lucius.
good.
Yes, I am the Lucius T. I am on Lucius Showcase on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter. I tend to focus on games that weren't released in America and Cobra Triangle. And yeah, check it out.
Okay. Remember,
And then,
contact him about buying an Acura too. Contact him about buying an Acura.
If you need
I also sell Acuras, yes.
if you need a comfortable ride that your cat can
Exactly. Are
appreciate.
you planning that trip to your next con? Are you worried about your seat giving you hemorrhoids? Buy an Acura today.
Only cool cats drive Akuras.
Exactly. You want to get laid at your next
start
con.
hiring these people.
And then Jason, how about you?
Yes. What are we doing again? I'm sorry.
Call outs, plugs,
What are we
where people can find us. That
Oh,
sort
where
of
people
thing.
can find me. Okay,
See what I mean?
so-
He's not even in the podcast.
Exactly. You know, I don't even drink. That's the funny part. Okay, so yes, where can you all find me? Yes, I have a YouTube channel. That's right. It's the Arthur X Jason show, which Daria said it earlier. Just take that / and put Arthur X Jason in there, and you can get to my channel, where we do a lovely assortment of entertainment-based reviews. No serious reviews.
No RPGs.
We don't do RPGs. No. I don't do things to educate children. Don't send your people there. If you want to have a good laugh.
After this rant, you really should cover RPGs because it would be hilarious.
Yeah.
Hey, what was that? What was that? You know, Derek would know this. What's that Cyber Hell game? What would that be considered? Or
Cyber Hell?
remember the one I did on
What?
3DO? I reviewed it a little bit. It's a Cyberpunk, or it's a Cyberpunk game. It's Hell or something on 3DO. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Do you mean Lawnmower Man? Because that was fucking garbage.
No, that's not. I don't remember. It's a Cyberpunk game, and I think it's called Hell.
Shadowrun?
No, it's on.
No,
3D,
that was
it's
on
on
3DO.
It's on 3DO, man.
Oh,
and
3DO.
no, not Shadowrun. But anyways,
couldn't
yeah,
tell you.
so you can come see me there. This is, of course, the channel we're on here is my Twitch channel, which I do stuff occasionally. And I also do stuff for Multitapped. And Donovan, I was actually working on your thing the other day, so we'll be seeing that come out.
Exciting.
You'll get to see Mr. One Eye play Dracula on the Sega CD, which is hilarious in itself.
And
so.
the best game on the Sega CD so far as I have played.
Exactly, it
Without
was
a
pretty
doubt.
good, so yes.
And then as for myself, anybody can find me on Twitter over at NA1I. I also stream with my buddy Veritek every day. We do primarily Overwatch Heroes of the Storm, sort of Blizzard-y type stuff. Every Friday I do an Overwatch-focused podcast, things going on in the esports scenes and things like that, called The Guardians. Feel free to check out this week's episode if anybody wants to. We're going to be discussing misogyny at some point because a big piece of content got removed from the game because it had a girl's butt in it. Because, somebody looking over their shoulder is fucking misogyny. There you go.
Yeah. What
So
race was
this
she?
week's episode will be pretty good, so I recommend that.
What race?
And then,
What race was she?
White.
Oh.
It's
that's not
always the white
close,
girls
man.
bitching about things. We really have nothing to complain about.
Are you white?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Fair enough.
My
The last name threw him off.
Yeah, last name
Yeah.
threw me off. I mean,
I'm married. That's not my last name.
Is he white?
Yes,
But,
actually, he's adopted.
Oh.
I will have a
Adopted by
couple.
He
of
wait.
things-
He got adopted by a Latin family.
Yeah.
Holy shit! It's like the reverse of me. How creepy.
But as far as YouTube, I do have a couple.
It
of
was
things-
actually your family.
Yeah. See, I look very Latin, but my last name is Lewis, which is about as white as it gets.
Yeah, right.
So.
You are vaguely ethnic, Jason. Everybody gives you a lot of different things. I've heard Spanish. I've heard Native American. I've heard all sorts of weird shit.
Some people at work think I'm Asian, which I think is hilarious. So, it's like, what part of me do I look like Asians? Did you go over to China and see a lot of me? Is that what happened? Maybe Mongolia, maybe. I don't know, but definitely not. Yeah. I don't know.
All right, guys.
You're
Well, as
one of
far
those actors that could just play any. Like, we need an ethnic person.
Yes.
Where's
Oh,
Jason?
speaking of this, by the way. Exactly.
Jason
Exactly.
is David Carradine.
Exactly. And I do want to state one thing before we do leave the air. If anyone wanted to know why I'm on this RPG podcast, it's because I am a quote-unquote salty, and a lot of people have already stated that in the chat. So I'm just putting this out there for any podcast. If you would like to hire me to be the salty old man so that I can, beef up your podcast a little bit. Or I can
Quick, we need an asshole.
Exactly. Or I can play an Asian, a Latin, a Native American Indian, Geronimo. I have a headband over here that's red. I can put it on and pretend like I'm from a tribe. Whatever you need, contact me.
Salt Shaker.
Contact me at my YouTube page.
For any
I can do
conduit
promotions.
you
Yes,
need,
it's terrific.
especially
Yeah.
Echo.
I can even get you on a reservation if the mood is set right. So, you know what I mean?
All right, guys. Well, for everybody watching live, thank you for tuning in. Thank you to everybody listening to the audio cast of this as well. And we will catch you all next week.
Bye.
See you, everyone.
Later, guys.
See
Stay
ya.
classy.